This is my second black Moleskine notebook that I filled up, and I didn't want to confuse it with the first, which is why I've got the artwork on the outside. So just with some metallic Sharpies and black Sharpie, I was able to just produce this. Again, loving the boxers and just this idea of fighting and not necessarily fighting against another person, but just fighting against just stuff that pulls you down in life. Exploring the idea of mordinary, this portmanteau of words, more and ordinary. I feel like that's what gets things done. Just nothing special. Just do more of ordinary things and good things will happen. So fight the good fight. 2 Timothy 4:7. And then I've got kind of the female side of the book back here, drawn to kind of resemble a stylized tattoo. Work hard, stay humble. Anyway, let's get into this. This initial drawing is basically just based on someone else's drawing. Stole it because I loved it so much. I love this idea. I still have this burned in my brain of when my wife and I go to Hawaii on vacation. Interestingly enough, I'm recording this the day before we were supposed to go to Hawaii. And all because of the coronavirus and COVID-19, all of those plans were canceled, and we've been living quite a different life over these last couple of months, but it's been good. The things that I've learned have been good. I wouldn't change it, but we do still need to get there. We just need to rebook our trip. So February 2016 to September of 2017 is when all this is taking place. So here I've got some figure examples, trying to explore the statue of David, even kind of superimpose my own likeness on top of that. And never got to be that trim, but still working on it. This was a fun one, and this probably embarrasses my wife and my kids, but this is a poster that my buddy Clark had in his room of Cindy Crawford, and we probably shouldn't have been looking at it, or he shouldn't have had it on his wall, but he got it as a joke for a birthday present, and he put it up on his wall, and we both had these major teen boy crushes on Cindy Crawford. And anyway, I just think that it's just a funny thing to relive kind of in this characterized version. This flowy hair, so fun to draw. And of course these female curves. Awesome. Here's some sketches based on some pictures of my wife, Peter Hollins, who's kind of internet famous. A friend from the choir named Siope. Dwight from The Office. This is chock full of just lots of pictures that I drew specifically for Instagram, and many of them from book reports that I had read. So Driven, and there was a follow-up book about Driven from his son, that's Larry Miller. We've got David McCullough here, an author that for some reason recently has been getting more likes on Instagram. I don't know why. I drew this and posted it years ago. Here's a picture of Kobe, who's since passed, sadly, beginning of this year. Just a really, really interesting person. I wanted to capture just that killer instinct that he had and look in his eye. Ed Catmull, Princess Leia, who's looking at 4 fingers. It must have been May the 4th that day. May the 4th be with you. Here's some drawings from church. A little rough sketch of little Han Solo. I just love the flow of this. Didn't finish it and probably should have. Yoda. I've read books where it talks about drawing things upside down and kind of looking at lines and forms differently, so that's an exercise in doing that. Here's an exercise of creating, well, these are Muppets. This is, I remember Beaker's name. What's this other guy's name? Anyway, they reminded me of choir directors Mac Wilberg and Ryan Murphy, and so I tried to combine their likenesses, and I don't know, like, the memory's still there, which is what matters most. The drawings are kind of awkward and quirky, but Maria Shriver. Podcasters, we've got Stephen Dubner, Richie Stedman, LeVar Burton, Mitt Romney's wife, what's her name? Sister Romney, we'll call her. An unfinished one of a guy from Portlandia. What's this guy's name? It'll come to me. Whole spread of Muhammad Ali. And some Steph Curry. She took that one to look like the characters that I used to collect on t-shirts. Walt Disney. And some initial Run with Ryan explorations. Love to see that stuff. Michelle Janicki, who's an Australian sprinter who had a very interesting warm-up right before she hit the blocks, which is kind of this gesture of her kind of just bouncing from one foot to the next as she swung her hips back and forth. Another famous track and field athlete, Jessica Ennis Hill, who's a very lovely person. Tom Brokaw, Aaron Ralston, cut off his hand hiking in Utah and wrote a book about that terrible experience. Got Shakira here. Here's some more remnants of And Then, graphic design project I was working on. And here's some drawings I have done on tour. This is Phil Knight, who I read his book Shoe Dog, or Shoe Dogs, and as I drew his face, I didn't know what he looked like, but he's kind of a really interesting person. He's got these really, really stark features, and I had to just include that Nike swoosh right there as one of the eyebrows. I'm forgetting this guy's name. He played for the Chicago Bulls. I read a book that he wrote. He'd been in some accidents after beginning his professional career, which sidelined him. Really, really sad. But came back. Now he's an analyst. The King Singers, which I had an opportunity to sing and perform with them while I was singing in the choir. Mark Eaton from Utah Jazz legend. Tad Carpenter, someone I look up to. I don't know him personally, but love his ability to illustrate, write, and his graphic design. Lead singer Brandon Flowers from The Killers. Jenna Welch, Evans Welch. I read her book. She wrote that after I had drawn some things for her blog called The Green Lemon. Never met her in person, but consider her a friend just through corresponding. Brooke Ince. You can see that Instagram personalities are starting to hit my radar. This is the Bucket List family, and you can see how young their two little kids were. Now they've got 3 kids, and they're all older. Still making lots of videos. Some illustrations based on Kentucky Fried Chicken and McDonald's. Here's a Gordon Hayward. This sketchbook will include a lot of NBA athletes because I had created this kind of project to do one athlete caricature from each of the NBA teams. And so what you'll see is the player's likeness here. This is Damian Lillard from the Portland Trail Blazers, and then a small little pose that they would be doing. This is one of the few exceptions where it's kind of all composed together, but normally I would draw lots of different examples of the small pose that they'd be doing, and then I would pair the head with the pose that I liked the most. And Florence Henderson, why not? But you can see a lot of these tries. Some of them are just really, really bad. We've got Vince Carter and then a second version of Vince Carter, Jeremy Lin, Porzingis. And most of these players, I would draw them really, really wanting to post them on Instagram or post the final work before they got traded or retired, as was the case with Tony Parker, Dirk Nowitzki, Dwayne Wade. I was able to post the overall drawing before everyone got traded. There was one person that got traded before I finished within that season, and then the next year it seemed like everyone got traded. So there's very few players playing for the same teams, but we've got Devin Booker here. And a lot of these ended up this way in the sketchbook, and then they would change as I would put them in the computer and redraw them after changing some of the features and spacing and stuff like that. Kyle Lowry, LeBron James, Chad Lewis with a body that was inspired by probably some Bruce Stark illustrations. Famous illustrator. Adrian is his name? Russell, I know is his last name. But I drew this right after he hit a Grand Slam in the World Series that year, just to kind of commemorate the childhood dream of hitting a Grand Slam in the World Series. This hula dancer, based on the likeness of my friend Pili, who I met in Peru years and years and years ago, and has become the face of the idea that I have to open a food truck based on tropical popsicles, or that sells tropical popsicles. My friend Becky Castleton, who interestingly enough shares the same name as my wife when she was a Castleton, and my illustration for Boys in the Boat. And some very, very early Pineapple Hut sketches. You can see, this is brilliant. The Pineapple Hut is drawn out here, and you can see the A in the pineapple creates the popsicle, and the U creates the stick. I just love that. I love that. When I discovered that I can do that, I just had to create the Pineapple Hut. Andrew Wiggins, Kyle Korver, again, small pose, larger head. I'm gonna forget some of these names. Anthony Davis, Daniello, he played for the Nuggets, Gallinari, Harden, Jabari Parker, Ingram, Drummond, Aaron Gordon. Here was a redraw of the defensive driving instructor. And here was a sketch that was based on my experience in my final Tabernacle Choir concert. And the names of these folks are escaping me, I apologize. But I was able to get this gal, who was a guest of our guest, this final drawing, which I really thought was fun. Drew Barrymore. And when I retired from the choir, my intent was to come home and do at least one sketch every week that was choir themed, and that has not happened. That aspiration lasted 2 weeks. This is Rick Elliott playing the organ, some men and women in the choir, and then some more explorations of NBA players. I don't believe either of these ended up on the final picture. And in the midst of this, I did some NBA legends. Dominique Wilkins. We've got Isaiah Thomas, Kemba Walker. Currently play Steph Curry, which he's a hard face for me to draw, and that's a terrible, terrible version. But I do like that pose. Paul George, Blake Griffin. Some more Pineapple Hut. We've got this character who plays for Miami, forgetting his name. Goran? I don't know. Westbrook. John Wall. Rudy Gay. Joel Embiid. You got a Frank Sinatra after we read his book. Thurl Bailey, jazz legend. This version of Trevor Noah and these subsequent versions, I didn't love any of them when I did them, and then I ended up really liking these. I figured they capture a part of his essence, and that was cool. Sketches from church, and Norman Rockwell. And his name's escaping me. Oh gosh. He's famous. He played for the Nationals. Now he plays for the Phillies. I'll find it. I'll remember it. Just illustration from an old cover of Sports Illustrated that Larry Bird was on. Bryce Harper. Sorry, Bryce. There you are. About to hit your home run. I really, really love this pose, and I wanted to take it to final. I still should. I think Bryce is a great, great athlete. Someone you could look up to. He's a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and not afraid to publish his thoughts on spiritual things, which I think is pretty cool. And this is probably the first set of conference drawings that I did following my retirement from the choir. So now they're in blue pencil. And I'm taking a little bit more time with these and planning them a little bit more, so they're getting better and better. They're not as rushed. Jazz Legends, Malone Stockton. This was a fun spread and a fun project. I was asked to come up with some pinup style drawings for a client. She's a florist, and she had a gentleman come in that wanted to put some illustrations on the arrangement of flowers that he was going to give his wife for her birthday. And I was just in heaven. I just thought, oh, all this gesture work is just going to pay off big time with these, and it was a lot of fun to put those together. I actually photoshopped these on a real plane and then photoshopped myself with the pilot and put these on the plane, the side of the plane. I've got some athletes here, podcaster, Kurt Frankum, Lopez Lamong, David Beckham, Chewbacca. And these drawings, these sketches were for the Dream Team poem that I had referenced before of the 12 Dream Team players. Steve Martin, Michael Jordan, Viktor Frankl. Now, this is when I was studying the look and art of Hirschfeld, and I really, really wanted to do a self-portrait and figure out what features of mine I should really embellish. And so I've got this really, really prominent nose, chin, and I'm wearing this goofy sweater, but I've loved using that, and that actually became part of another piece of work. When I was in Forever Plaid, I used this likeness and created 3 more of the other cast members that were performing in that, which is a really great memory. We've got a Ryan Hamilton down here. This version, Kelly Kapoor is her name. Mindy Kaling is her real name, but Kelly Kapoor is what she was in The Office. And this one was really messed up, and so I remember before posting it, I completely overhauled it in Photoshop so I could get rid of some of the mistakes that you see here. Sofia Vergara. Remini, what's her first name? Leah Remini. And I still need to put this game together. Kleptomania, I've got the illustrations, everything's in place. I just need to sit down and find the time to do it. I haven't done it just yet. Curry family, everyone's got mouth guards in their mouth. You see that? Todd Rose, who went to Weber State while I was there and then went off to Harvard. And we've got a Malcolm Gladwell and some figures from the CrossFit Games. And that is the Moleskine.